The email arrived at precisely 9:17 a.m. on an ordinary Friday that would soon become anything but. Three terse, merciless sentences landed in Marcus Wright's inbox and, in the span of a single breath, demolished the life he had painstakingly built over 7 exhausting years. Your position has been terminated, effective immediately. Please clear your desk by noon. Security will escort you out. He stared at the screen, the words refusing to blur no matter how many times he blinked. 7 years of relentless commitment, 60 and 70-hour weeks that blurred into one another. Missed parent-teacher conferences, soccer games where he promised Lily, "Next time, sweetheart, Daddy will be there." Late nights debugging launches so the company could hit its numbers. All of it erased by an automated HR template and a faceless approval chain, discarded like a redundant server pulled from a rack. What Marcus could not yet fathom, as cold sweat prickled along his hairline, was that within the next 57 minutes, Victoria Harmon, the formidable CEO who had personally signed off on the latest round of cost alignment, would discover that the continued existence of her $200 million company now depended entirely on the man whose badge she had just deactivated. If you find yourself drawn to stories of breathtaking reversals, delayed justice, second chances seized from the edge of ruin, quiet resilience in the face of betrayal, and the unexpected ways life can right itself, then please tap that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More narratives like this one are waiting, reminders that everything can change in a heartbeat, and that the lowest moments frequently set the stage for the most improbable victories. Marcus forced himself to read the message a fourth time, hoping, irrationally, that the text might rearrange itself into something less final. No such mercy arrived. He minimized the window. His desktop background filled the screen. Lily at 10 years old, gap-toothed grin radiant after the tooth fairy's visit, eyes crinkled with pure delight. For years that photo had been his talisman, a quick glance during brutal sprints to remind him why he endured the pressure. Now it stared back like an accusation. How would he look into those same eyes tonight and explain that tomorrow there might be no more our apartment, no more dance classes, no more guarantee that the next asthma flare-up wouldn't bankrupt them? The marketing floor around him thrummed with the carefree rhythm of Friday morning, animated chatter about weekend brewery plans, the soft chime of Slack notifications, the rich scent of fresh espresso drifting from the kitchen pod. Not a single colleague glanced toward cubicle 14B. His private apocalypse went entirely unnoticed. He exhaled slowly, opened the bottom drawer, and retrieved the small lime green stress ball Lily had pressed into his hand last birthday. She had drawn a wobbly, smiley face on it with silver marker and written beneath it in careful block letters, "For when work gets crazy, Daddy Heart." He closed his fist around it until the rubber protested. 20 floors above, in the sunlit expanse of her corner office, Victoria Harmon stood motionless before the quarterly forecast dashboard. Crimson bars marched downward in a pattern no amount of optimistic commentary could disguise. At 42, she had bootstrapped pinnacle technologies from midnight coding sessions in her parents' garage to a category-defining SaaS platform valued at over $200 million. Every element of this space, the hand-blown glass pendant lights, the custom walnut credenza, the single white orchid that somehow always bloomed, testified to that improbable triumph. Now those red lines threatened to undo it all. Howard Reeves, her CFO and confidant of nearly a decade, stood stiffly beside the desk holding a tablet like a shield. "The reductions were processed exactly as approved," he reported in a low, careful voice. 32 terminations effective this morning. Marketing contributed 4 names from the redundancy matrix. Victoria kept her eyes on the screen. "Meridian. Where do we stand?" "Board convenes Monday for final ratification. Technical due diligence remains the sticking point. Their team continues to express unease about integration with their legacy sharded database environment. Our prior responses have not materially reduced their perceived risk. The Meridian deal, $50 million across 3 years, was the lifeline. Without it, Pinnacle would burn cash at a terrifying clip. Reserves depleted in 4 to 6 months, R&D frozen, key talent flight risks spiking, Acquisition rumors gaining credibility. Victoria finally turned to face Howard. Compile every unanswered technical query they've submitted. Send it to me. I'll own the review personally over the weekend. He nodded and withdrew. The door closed with a muted click. Alone, Victoria pressed her palm against the cool floor-to-ceiling glass and looked down at the miniature city below. People hurrying, taxis weaving, life continuing indifferently. She had sworn to herself long ago that she would never become the kind of leader who saw headcount as nothing more than adjustable cells in a spreadsheet. Yet the evidence suggested otherwise. On the 20th floor, Marcus packed with deliberate slowness, as though haste might make the reality irrevocable. The ceramic mug Lily painted in third-grade art class, lopsided heart, best dad ever, in purple glaze. The stubborn little cactus that had survived 3 years of inconsistent watering and eternal fluorescent glare. The trio of Lucite awards for marketing campaigns that once generated 8-figure pipeline and earned pinnacle spots on most innovative lists. His throat closed when he lifted the small frame photograph of Lily on her first day of kindergarten. New backpack, nearly as tall as she was, pigtails tied with bright ribbons, expression caught between excitement and uncertainty. He had knelt to take that picture, promising her the world would be kind. Now he wondered whether he could keep that promise. Marcus, Priya Sharma, his team lead and one of the few people in the building he truly trusted, appeared at the cubicle entrance. Confusion etched her features. "What's happening?" He met her eyes. "You didn't hear? I've been let go." Her mouth opened, then closed. "That's impossible." He angled the monitor. She read the email. Color drained from her cheeks. "No, this cannot be right. You're the linchpin on Meridian. You designed the integration blueprint. You've led every joint architecture session for months." A tired, humorless shrug. "Apparently my role became redundant at 9:17. Priya shook her head fiercely. "Don't move. I'm going straight to HR. This is a mistake." She marched off toward the elevators. Marcus knew better. He had witnessed too many similar scenes. Talented colleagues vanishing overnight, desks cleared by facilities, Slack avatars grayed out, names becoming conversational landmines. Reversals were mythical. He continued folding personal items into the box. Minutes later, a security officer appeared at the department threshold, radio clipped to his belt, expression professionally neutral. Marcus felt humiliation bloom hot in his chest. The final walk of shame, escorted out like petty theft. Upstairs, Victoria's strategy alignment meeting was interrupted by her assistant's calm voice over the intercom. "Victoria, James Chen, CTO at Meridian Online, on line 1. He emphasized its urgent, final technical review." She excused herself and stepped into the adjacent soundproof pod. "James." "Victoria." No pleasantries. "Our assessment is complete. We have major concerns." Her stomach tightened. "Specify." "Your integration responses are inadequate. We need detailed mapping of API endpoints, transaction consistency guarantees, failover behavior, and, critically, how your platform will interact with our proprietary sharding and indexing layer without introducing latency or data anomalies. The current documentation leaves too much ambiguity." "We'll close every gap," she said, voice level while her mind raced. "I'll have our lead liaison engage your team this afternoon." A long pause. "Victoria, plain speak. Board decides Monday. Absent comprehensive, convincing answers by Sunday EOD, I cannot recommend approval. And you know I've been your strongest advocate inside Meridian." The call ended. She returned to her office and immediately dialed the CTO. "Michael, here now." Michael Barnes arrived looking uneasy. "Who has owned the technical documentation and Q&A for Meridian?" A brief hesitation. "Marcus Wright, from marketing. He served as the bridge between our dev team and their architects for over a year. He speaks both languages fluently." "Bring him to my office immediately." Michael shifted. "That may not be possible. I believe he was part of this morning's RIF." Victoria's gaze sharpened to a blade. "You believe?" Marketing needed to cut 4 positions. His name was on the list. "Who approved the final roster?" "Redundancy committee." Howard signed. She snatched her phone and called HR. "Lauren, Marcus Wright. Is he still on premises?" Brief hold. Security is escorting him out of the building right now. Stop them immediately. I'm coming down. She grabbed her blazer and strode to the private elevator. In the lobby, Marcus stood beside his cardboard box, deactivated badge resting on the security desk like a surrendered weapon. In his head, he ran numbers. Emergency fund would last 14 weeks if ruthless, maybe 17 if he deferred every non-essential payment, rent due in 11 days. Lily's pulmonologist appointment in 23. Mr. Wright, he turned. Victoria Harmon crossed the marble expanse toward him, posture erect, heels striking with quiet authority. In 7 years, he had seen her mostly from afar, addressing the company from a stage, voice steady and commanding. Up close, the intensity in her eyes was almost physical. Ms. Harmon, he said, shifting the box to steady it. A serious mistake has occurred, she stated without cushioning. Your termination was erroneous. We require your immediate return upstairs. He stared, disbelief warring with exhaustion. Erroneous? Critically so. She nodded at the guard. Reactivate Mr. Wright's credentials and stand down. A torrent of emotions collided inside him. Relief sharp enough to cut, anger at the morning's callousness, wariness at the abrupt about-face. May I ask what changed in the last hour? His tone stayed measured. Victoria paused, a flicker of discomfort crossing her features. I have just learned you are indispensable to closing Meridian. The termination was not vetted against current strategic dependencies. Marcus placed the box carefully on the desk. With respect, Ms. Harmon, I cannot pretend the last 3 hours never happened. 7 years. Terminated by email. Marched out like someone caught stealing. Her jaw tightened briefly. She glanced at the small knot of onlookers pretending to check phones. You're correct. This conversation deserves privacy. Please. They rode the executive lift in silence. In her office, she closed the door and motioned to the chair across from her desk. For once, the polished CEO veneer cracked. Meridian hangs by a thread. Their board will reject Monday unless every technical objection is resolved by Sunday night. You possess unmatched institutional knowledge of both our platform and their environment. Without your involvement, we lose the deal and face far more extensive layoffs than the 32 executed today. Marcus held her gaze. So my value reappeared when the spreadsheet changed color. Yes, she said plainly. I won't patronize you with sentiment. It was necessity, pure and immediate. He turned toward the window. Somewhere below, Lily's school was releasing early release students. She was probably already on the playground, swinging, laughing, unaware that her father's ability to keep her world steady had nearly vanished, and then reappeared, in under an hour. I have a daughter, he said softly. 10, single dad since she was 3. Every decision I make lands directly on her shoulders. Victoria waited. This morning I was mentally drafting the talk. How we might downsize. Change districts mid-year. Drop dance and art classes she loves. What if the next asthma attack comes and I can't cover the rescue inhaler or the specialist copay? His voice remained even, but the emotion beneath was unmistakable. I refused to subject her to that instability again. What assurances do you require to stay? Victoria asked. I'll deliver Meridian, completely convincingly, on deadline. But I need guarantees. Minimum 2-year contract. Leadership of the integration practice going forward. Compensation commensurate with the value you now recognize. She studied him for several long seconds. In 12 years of building and protecting Pinnacle, she had rarely been so directly cornered. Yet the leverage was undeniable. Agreed. Legal will prepare the documents this afternoon. Over the following 48 hours, Marcus barely slept. He orchestrated round-the-clock sessions with engineering, dissected every Meridian query, authored detailed response matrices, produced annotated architecture diagrams, even wrote proof-of-concept code snippets to demonstrate feasibility. Many of the blockers he had foreseen months earlier, during informal coffee chats and site visits with Meridian's database team. A casual boast about their custom indexing logic here, a quiet concern about right contention there. He had researched mitigation strategies on his own time, long before the questions became formal hurdles. Sunday night, the completed 94-page response package went out. Meticulous, authoritative, anticipatory. Victoria read every section herself before approving transmission. She found herself genuinely impressed by the clarity, foresight, and quiet confidence. "How did you anticipate their fixation on the custom sharding index collision?" she asked while they awaited delivery receipt. "Our architects never elevated it to critical." Marcus offered a small shrug. "I listened. During a break last month, one of their senior DBAs mentioned, almost proudly, how their indexing algorithm handles high concurrency writes. It wasn't on any agenda, it was just pride in craftsmanship. I realized it would surface as a risk during integration, so I spent spare evenings modeling workarounds and validating them in our dev environment." Victoria regarded him anew. This went beyond technical competence. It was relational intelligence, proactive empathy, pattern recognition born of genuine care. Monday, 9:42 a.m. James Chen called her personal line. "Board concluded 15 minutes ago. Contract awarded. Your submission addressed every material concern, and then some. Our technical committee was impressed. Whatever you pay the author of that package, increase it." Victoria located Marcus in the makeshift war room he had occupied since Friday. Whiteboards dense with marker, empty coffee cups, laptop still glowing. "Meridian signed, 50 million over 3 years. You preserve this company." He exhaled, tension finally leaving his shoulders. "I'm glad. I still believe in the mission here." "I owe you a great deal more than relief," she said, the words sounding almost foreign. "An apology first for the error in judgment this morning. Second, for failing to see and properly value your contribution for far too long." "Thank you," he replied quietly. "The 2-year agreement with promotion and compensation adjustment is being finalized. However, I'd like to propose an alternative path." He raised an eyebrow. "I plan to establish a new executive role, Chief Integration Officer, full ownership of all major client integration programs, direct report to the CEO, 3-year term, executive-level package, and explicit provisions for family flexibility, school events, medical needs, whatever your daughter requires." Marcus sat still for several seconds. "Why extend that far?" "Because the past 3 days exposed a persistent blind spot at Pinnacle. We have pursued technology, velocity, market share with single-minded focus. We have undervalued the human infrastructure, the individuals who turn architecture into trust, who foresee obstacles before they become disasters, who understand that every integration ultimately serves people with full, complex lives. You represent that equilibrium. We need your voice at the highest level." 2 months later, Marcus sat in his new office on the executive floor. Sunlight spilled across the desk, where Lily's kindergarten photo now stood beside a fresh frame. Her at the spring dance recital, mid-twirl in a blue costume, face alight with pride. He had watched the entire performance from the front row. No phone, no Slack, no gnawing worry about missed calls. His phone vibrated. Message from Victoria. Exec briefing in 10. Bringing Lily's chocolate chip cookies. She insists they're team fuel. She says hi. He smiled. Easily, genuinely. Since that Friday, the company had changed in quiet but meaningful ways. Victoria introduced mandatory human impact reviews for significant decisions, requiring leaders to evaluate effects on employees' families, well-being, and long-term security alongside financials. Several other individuals slated for termination were reassessed, reassigned, and retained. Executive cadences now included personal updates beside metrics. Victoria herself had internalized the most difficult lesson of her career. An organization's single most precious asset never appears in any financial statement. It resides in the listening, the understanding, the deliberate choice to see employees as complete human beings, parents, partners, caregivers, dreamers, rather than interchangeable resources. As Marcus gathered materials for the upcoming strategy session, his eyes drifted to a small frame on the credenza. The printed termination email, preserved behind glass. Not kept in anger, but as a quiet memento. Proof of how swiftly life can pivot, how one candid conversation can convert catastrophe into renewal, and how rediscovering the human core can resurrect an entire organization. The company that had nearly collapsed by overlooking its people was now flourishing precisely because it had remembered them. And the single father who had almost lost the ability to provide for his daughter had gained far more than employment stability. He had acquired influence, respect, and a platform to ensure the technology they created served both its users and its makers with genuine equity and care. In the end, Marcus did not merely save Pinnacle Technologies. It was the belated, hard-won acknowledgement that behind every inbox notification, every cost line, every line of code, there are human lives of incalculable worth. A truth that remade not only a business, but every person within it.